This is Central Asia. It comprises Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, and Tajikistan. All of them should have been a superpower in the world today, because for thousands of years, this area has been the center point of the Silk Road. The Silk Road was actually the trade route that connected China to Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and Western Europe. At that time, Central Asia was so important that in the 13th century, the world's most populous city was Merv, located in Turkmenistan, right on this trade route. Similarly, cities like Samarkand and Bukhara in Uzbekistan were famous worldwide for their culture, art, and architecture. 800 years ago, Central Asia was a powerhouse, which the Chinese, Mongols, and Persian empires tried to control in their respective times. But today, Central Asia has become very irrelevant for the world economy. Where did it go wrong? And why is Central Asia so big, but so weak today? We'll explore that in today's video. Central Asia spans roughly 4 million square kilometers and has a population of around 78 million. It's rich in many natural resources, but Central Asia's geography is completely landlocked, with no access to any major ocean for these 5 countries. And then this area is sandwiched between 3 world powers, Russia, Iran, and China, who influence it for their own benefits. Now, geography plays a huge role in the economic success of any country, the agricultural potential of a country, its trade routes access, and protecting itself from enemies. All these things are defined by geography. If we talk about Central Asia, about 60% of its area is desert. 70% of Turkmenistan's area is desert, with only 20% of its land suitable for agriculture. Similarly, Western Uzbekistan is also mostly desert, making both of these countries especially poor compared to Kazakhstan. Because the northern side of Kazakhstan is very fertile for agriculture, and wheat is grown here, which goes to all Central Asian countries. But the southern and western sides of Kazakhstan are dry and infertile. Today, most of Central Asia's population resides in the south and east because 2 rivers pass through here. One is the Amu Darya and the other is the Sir Darya. These 2 rivers flow into the Aral Sea, located on the border of Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan. Now, you might think that the land around these 2 rivers would be suitable for agriculture, but unfortunately, that's not the case. In fact, there's the Altai mountain range in the south and east of Central Asia, which stretches from China to Mongolia and to Russia. And because of this mountain range, there are hardly any empty and flat lands left in this entire area to grow any crops. So only about 20 to 25% of Central Asia's land is suitable for agriculture. And that's why no one lives in these areas of Kazakhstan, Western Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan. However, just above them are Russia and Ukraine, which have about 60 to 80% of their land fertile for agriculture. This is why even today, 50% of Central Asia's population lives in rural areas, and they're cut off from the rest of the world, just grazing their animals on their lands, drinking their milk, and surviving by eating their meat. But if you look at the map of Central Asia, there's only the Aral Sea on the western border. So why don't Central Asian countries benefit from it? To know the answer to this, we have to go into history. In fact, all the people living in Central Asia today are actually Turks, who migrated around 4,000 years ago from Siberia, northern China, and East Asia. Around the 6th century AD, these people established their empire here, which stretched from the Black Sea to Mongolia. Then, in the 7th and 8th centuries, all this area from the Amu Darya to the Sir Darya came under Muslim control. These are the same areas that today Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and Kazakhstan are called. Then, in the 13th and 14th centuries, the Mongols seized control of this entire area and Central Asia remained under Mongol control for many years. In the 16th century, when the Mongol power weakened, attempts began between the Russian and Chinese empires to take control of this area. And then, in 1917, the Soviet Union took control of this entire area. The first thing the Soviet Union did was to divide the 5 major ethnic groups living here, Kazakhs, Tajiks, Turkmens, Uzbeks, and Kyrgyz, into countries. It's evident from this that the Soviet Union had a great awareness of ground realities, as it made each group in every area a country. America's biggest blunder in Afghanistan was that it was not aware of the ethnic reality there. So, in 2001, when it attacked Afghanistan and overthrew the Taliban government, it handed over control of Afghanistan to the Tajik people instead of the Taliban. But Tajiks make up only 30% of Afghanistan's population, and they mostly speak Dari, while Pashtuns make up 50% of Afghanistan. And as a result, the Afghan government could not maintain control over the people of Afghanistan. And within just 1 month of America's departure from Afghanistan, the Taliban regained control of the country. The Soviet Union divided it, and development began here. But due to the communist ideology, clashes began with the local people, because the majority population here was Muslim, and the communists were strongly against religious ideologies. As a result, mosques and churches were closed in Central Asia for many years, and because of this, there were many bloody clashes with the local people. As a result, many Central Asians migrated to Afghanistan, the Middle East, and the subcontinent. The Soviet Union realized that resentment would increase among the people of Central Asia in this way, and it would become difficult for them to control here. So they started development here and slowly began to relax religious restrictions. Now, before we move forward, please take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. Now, a very interesting fact here is that today, Central Asia is the world's largest cotton producer, and credit goes to the Soviet Union for this. But this cotton irrigation has also caused a lot of damage to Central Asia. In fact, due to the construction of so many canals, the Aral Sea began to dry up. And today, 100 years later, the situation is such that the fourth largest lake in the world has become a desert. The Soviet Union earned a lot of money from the cotton exports of Central Asia for 40 to 50 years. After the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, Soviet control over Central Asian countries ended, but two new problems arose for them. One was that due to the decades of communist control, their industry had been destroyed, and now they had to rebuild their industry and economy. And secondly, the biggest source of water for these countries, the Aral Sea, had almost disappeared. Due to these economic problems, governments could not deliver, and in many Central Asian countries, after 1990, civil wars and political instability began, such as civil wars in Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan in 1990, and then many revolts in Uzbekistan in 2005, which led to a lot of fighting between the government and locals, and this series is still going on. And on top of that, due to the presence of world powers, Central Asia remains a victim of power politics, as today, 80% of Central Asia's natural gas goes to China and Russia. The countries that develop these gas pipelines themselves buy this gas at very low prices from these countries. And then, after the Russia-Ukraine war, China and India are now mainly importing gas from Russia. This has caused the demand for natural gas in Central Asia to decline. All in all, Central Asia has become merely a puppet due to its geography, history, and current geopolitical dynamics, which world powers use for their benefit and discard once their purpose is served. It's possible that in the coming times, if Russia and China emerge as world powers, the Silk Road may become important again, and once again, Central Asia may become the hub of trade and culture. But for now, it doesn't seem like this will happen before the next decade. But what can these landlocked countries do to lead towards the right part? Central Asia, despite its rich history and vast resources, has faced numerous challenges that have hindered its stability in recent decades. To move towards stability, Central Asian nations must focus on several key areas. Firstly, promoting regional cooperation is essential. Central Asian countries can learn from the European Union's model of economic integration, which has fostered stability and prosperity among member states. By strengthening regional organizations such as the Eurasian Economic Union and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Central Asian nations can enhance economic ties, facilitate trade, and address common security concerns. Secondly, investing in infrastructure development is crucial. Improved transportation networks, energy infrastructure, and digital connectivity can facilitate economic growth, enhance regional trade, and attract foreign investment. China's Belt and Road Initiative offers a blueprint for infrastructure development, with projects such as the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor serving as examples of successful collaboration between nations. Thirdly, promoting inclusive governance and addressing socio-economic disparities are vital for stability. Central Asian governments must prioritize poverty alleviation, access to education, healthcare, and job creation to mitigate social unrest and extremism. Kazakhstan's efforts to diversify its economy through industrialization and innovation serve as the model for other countries in the region. Fourthly, Strengthening rule of law and promoting human rights are essential for building trust and fostering stability. Central Asian nations can draw lessons from post-Soviet Eastern European countries such as Estonia and Georgia, which have made significant progress in democratization and combating corruption. Finally, fostering regional dialogue and cooperation on environmental issues is critical. Central Asia is vulnerable to climate change, water scarcity, and natural disasters, which pose significant threats to stability. Initiatives like the Aral Sea Restoration Project demonstrate the importance of transnational cooperation in addressing environmental challenges. So what are your thoughts on the issue? Let's keep the conversation going in the comments section. Please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel as well. And while you're still here, take a moment to watch our video on the Australian economy.